Hello, Trupti M. Trupti M.
Sir.
Are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Abhishek N. Abhishek. Abhishek, are you there? Abhishek,
Sir.
is it audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Nagaraj MS. Nagaraj MS.
Sir,
Yeah. So be online. Like we'll be starting the module 3. Hence, I'm waiting for some more participants to join. Why? Because it is the starting module now. So without understanding the basics, you won't be able to follow the rest of the things. Hence I'm waiting for some more time. Another 1 minute, let us wait. And then we'll start with the module 3. So module 3 is, so what you're saying, module 3 name, what is the name of module 3? Hello?
memory management, sir.
Yeah, memory management. So module 3 is memory management. So what basically is a memory? So memory is one of the main resource. Okay. So the computer system has got memory as one of the main resource. Second main resource is the CPU. Then we have hard disk, memory space, then input and output devices, etc. So among the bunch of resource, so this memory is one of the main resource, and memory is assigned to the user processes by the operating system. So whenever the user requests for memory, so then the operating system can issue or assign the memory for the user processes or for the user programs. So the assignment of memory for the user process will be done by the memory. Again, we have various kinds of memories involved in the computer system. Okay. So according to the syllabus, so we have something called as continuous memory allocation and non-continuous memory allocation. Then we have paging. So the important concept regarding the memory management is paging and segmentation and virtual memory. And we have so many page replacement algorithms. So we have first in, first out, and least recently used page replacement algorithms. Okay. So now this module 3 is reserved to deal with the memory management. So again, if I have, so the word memory management means, so basically like we'll be dealing with the management of RAM. So what is a RAM basically? RAM stands for random access memory. So which is also called as the main memory or the primary memory. So basically this module 3, the so-called memory management, will be dealing with managing the primary memory or the RAM. Okay. So right now we have 17 participants. I think we can start. Okay. So this module 3 is basically dealing with the memory management, which has got these many concepts to be covered. Okay. So before we go for the actual continuous memory allocation and non-continuous memory allocation, I think it's better to have some basic information regarding the memory and organization of memory and what sort of memories are involved inside a computer. So once we have the very basic knowledge of memory, then we can start with the actual syllabus. Okay, so these slides are explaining the basic things what you should be able to know before we start the actual syllabus according to your syllabus. Okay. So this basic memory management meaning says that like it's a function of operating system in which the operating system will manage the RAM. Like as I said, so the basic memory management is what we are managing. Here we are managing the memory, the so-called the RAM. So where is RAM is nothing but the primary memory or the main memory. So by moving the process back and forth between the disk and the RAM. So what is disk here? So disk is nothing but the secondary memory. Like example for secondary memory is second call it as hard disk or secondary storage devices, also called as baking store devices. Okay. So basically inside the memory system, I mean, like inside a computer system, so you can find two kinds of memory. So one is the main memory or the primary memory or the RAM, okay, also called as a read-write memory. And second kind of memory is nothing but the secondary storage devices. And example for the secondary storage device is hard disk, right? Have you heard of hard disk? Have you heard of hard disk? Audience.
Yes, sir.
So, like if you compare the size of hard disk with RAM, like which one is larger? Usually, like in say, like in laptops or in computers or in your well-known mobile phones. Okay. So, if we compare the so-called RAM memory and the secondary storage or hard disk, like whose size is larger? Usually, generally,
This.
disk size will be larger. Examples: we are available with the hard disk of size say 500 GB, 1 terabyte. Okay, so whereas the RAM, like if you compare the size of RAM, like in case of mobiles means, so the RAM is available like in terms of say 1 GB RAM, 2 GB RAM, 4 GB RAM, 6 GB RAM, 8 GB RAM. Okay, so like, but the same memory or the hard disk will be available like in terms of 500 GB, right? Or say 1 terabyte of memory is available. Okay, so here like in case of memory management, right? Like we're supposed to have the managing of the RAM. The RAM is again the primary memory by moving the process back and forth between the secondary storage. And like as I said, the hard disk is the best example for secondary storage and the RAM, okay, during the process of execution. So while any process, like if at all I want to execute any process means that particular process will be stored in the hard disk initially, right, or in the secondary storage. And if at all I want to execute the program means I need to bring that particular program stored in the hard disk to the main memory or into the RAM, then only I can execute it. Okay, so here this so-called memory management will be managing the operations like moving the process from main memory to secondary memory or from secondary memory to main memory, like so that that particular process can be executed. So what are the main functions of this memory management is, so to keep track of every memory location, whether the memory location is free or the particular memory location is being occupied by some other process. Okay, so we can have the information regarding so whether the locations where the process is to be stored is free or like it's been allocated. Second function is to keep track how much of memory is allocated. Say can have the execution of 8 GB of a process. Okay, so I can run so this large process, huge process of size 8 GB, even though we are available with only 4 GB of RAM. Okay, like how it is possible to run so this large process 8 GB of RAM in a small amount of RAM available in the memory, I mean small amount of RAM available in the computer system. So for that like I'll be dividing this 8 GB process into so many parts. Okay, so where each part is called as a component of the process, and I'll be loading each component of the process into the RAM, and I can execute this huge 8 GB of process. Okay, again we have lots and lots of concepts like on this program execution or process execution. Okay, so but for now you just understand that even though we have 4 GB of RAM, so but still I can execute the program, so which is much more larger than the size of the RAM. Okay, so the third function is so as to take the decisions, so when the process will get how much of memory and in which section of memory the process will be executed. So when, where, how, who, okay, all these questions with respect to the process execution and with respect to the memory will be answered by this memory management. So for example, so to take the decisions when the process will get the memory and how much of memory will be allocated for the process and in which section of memory the process will be executed, all these answers will be answered by the, I mean, all these questions will be answered by the memory management. And the fourth function of memory management is when the process will get the actual memory and how much of memory, what it needs. Okay, so you can remember these points and I can take the help of these statements so as to explain the concepts. And what I've seen is like either internals or examination, So whatever the slides again that's been given to you, don't write only the information given in the slide. Okay, so like you should learn to like elaborate the things, right? Explain the things based upon the points given in the slide. So don't simply copy or say mug the statements or the points given in the slide. Okay, like in that regard, so you can keep in mind all these functions of the memory management before we go for the actual syllabus. Okay, so again the same thing in different sense. Okay, so we have something called as a CPU here, and we have the main memory or the RAM, right, also called as read-write memory or the primary memory, and we have here a secondary storage device, right? So the best example for secondary storage device is, I said, HD. So what is HD? HD stands for hard disk. Okay, so we are say like well aware of CD, right? CD-ROMs, and we have say used hard disk. Okay, and we have used pen drives. So these pen drives, CD write, and I mean CD writes, and tape, magnetic disk, floppy disk, right? Like all these are examples for secondary storage devices. And the example for this main memory is the RAM, right? Also called as the read-write memory. Okay, so we have the CPU here, where the CPU is only aware of the RAM. Okay, so the CPU is not aware of the existence of the secondary memory. The CPU only is aware of the existence of the main memory RAM. Okay, so whatever the program you write, say for example, like if you write a C program, so then that particular C program will be stored in the hard disk initially, and to execute that particular program, okay, right, that particular program needs to be brought from secondary storage device to the primary memory, and then the CPU can access the contents stored in the RAM. Okay, suppose the program is stored in the secondary storage device, means that particular program will not be identified by the CPU. Hence, if at all you want to execute a process or program, okay, so then that particular program should be brought into the RAM, okay, so that our CPU can execute your program. Okay, and information regarding secondary memory, like these are slow devices, okay, slow memory devices. So but the size of these hard disks will be much more larger when compared to your RAM. And the main thing is these secondary storage devices will be non-volatile in nature. Again, the meaning of the word volatile and non-volatile. And if you compare this, RAM means RAM is volatile memory. Okay, so the meaning is, so this volatile memory means no power means information is lost. Suppose if so for the memory, suppose if the main power itself is turned off, means you will lose the information that is stored in the memory. Hence, that sort of memory where if I am not able to supply the power, means I can lose the information stored in the memory. That kind of memory is called as volatile memory. And what about non-volatile? Even though like there is no power, so but still there is no chance of missing the data, and that we call it as non-volatile. Hence the example for non-volatile memory is hard disk, and example for the volatile memory is the RAM. Okay, so this RAM is the primary memory, also called as read-write memory or the main memory. Okay, so when compared to this RAM and hard disk, so this RAM is much more faster, and it is having smaller in size. So the size of RAM will be much more smaller when compared to the size of this hard disk or pen drives, okay, etc. And this RAM is basically a volatile memory. Okay, so you can have these information, right? So the process of allocation of memory or a small space or small room in the main memory to the programs or processes under execution, and after the execution of the programs, okay, in the RAM, the memory management has to also take care of release or deallocation of the same memory after the execution of the process. So the process of allocation of memory or small room or small space for our programs that are initially stored in the secondary memory is called as the memory management. Okay, so the allocation as well as deallocation, okay, after the execution of process, okay, both should be handled by the memory management, right? So after completion of program execution, the memory management should be also able to release the allocated space so as to make space or make some room for the other programs to execute in the RAM. Okay, right. So along with this main memory or primary memory and secondary memory, for example, hard disk, etc., we do have some more storage elements in the computer system. Okay, and say like extra or other types of memory elements are being listed here. Can you see this? Okay, so what is the first word here? These are nothing but the other types of memory elements used in the computer system apart from the main memory RAM, as well as the secondary storage elements like hard disk, etc. So I can read this. Can anybody tell the first word? Hello?
Sirs.
So what I've written here, registers. Okay, so these registers are also the memory elements. Okay, and these will be like say less in number in a computer system, and these are smaller in size. Okay, like hardly I can have say 1 byte of registers, or say a register can be of say 1 to 4 bytes. So like these registers are also small memory elements in the computer system, right? And these are generally called as GPRs, where GPR stands for general purpose register. So these registers are basically small memories involved in the system. Okay, and the number of registers in a computer system will be very much less, right? And the size of the registers is also less. Normally the registers will be of size 1 byte to 4 byte. And regarding cache, so what is a cache? Cache is also a sort of memory where we store more frequently used programs or processes. Okay, so if CPU wants to say fetch and execute some instruction, means CPU will not be seeing in the RAM. Okay, instead the CPU will fetch the instruction or the data what it needs from the cache. Okay, so before the CPU will be able to search in the RAM, okay, so the CPU will first search for the contents in the registers, and if the content is not present in the registers, then the CPU will go for the data information, okay, searching up information in the cache. And in the cache also, if information is not available, then the CPU will be like able to search for data in the RAM. And in the RAM also, like if data is not available, means the CPU will be able to search for the data in the secondary storage. Okay, so we can have the use of either registers or cache or RAM or secondary memory like inside the computer system. Okay, well, basically we have like these memory elements as well, along with the main memory RAM as well as the secondary storage. Okay, yeah, so from this particular slide you have the actual syllabus to be started. Okay, and whatever we saw, like slide 1 and 2 are only for the basic information. Okay, so now let me start with the actual syllabus, and the heading for this is static and dynamic memory allocation. Like again, the meaning of static allocation means what? Allocation of the memory, and that is being performed before the start of execution of the program. Okay, so this means what? Before the execution of the program or the process begins or starts, the operating system will be able to allocate the memory space or small room, right, for our process. So the allocation of memory will be done right before the start of execution. Okay, so as the memory space is allocated to a process before the start of execution, we have some disadvantages here. Okay, so what is the main disadvantage here is, suppose if the size of the program is not known initially, so then it may lead to the wastage of memory space. Why? Because without knowing the size of the program, we are going for execution. Okay, so before the execution of process or the program begins, we'll be able to allocate the memory for the process of the program. Hence, it may lead to the wastage of memory space. Okay, and the advantage of this is no allocation action will be done during the program execution. Okay, like again, it means the same. Like as we are performing the allocation of memory before the start of execution, hence there is no need to allocate the memory space for the process right during the program execution. Right, this in turn means that no overhead will be there or included while the program is being allocated the memory space. Okay, so the main advantage is no overhead will be there, right, in terms of allocation of memory for the process during the execution. So, but the main disadvantage here is the memory can be wasted. Why? Because while the program is executing, okay, I mean, well before the program is being executed, we will be allocating the memory. Hence, it may lead to the wastage of memory. Okay. So, what are the points regarding the static memory allocation? Is static memory allocation leads to the wastage of memory space. Okay. So, but it is simple to implement and no execution overhead will be involved during the program execution. Okay. So now after static allocation, we do have something called as dynamic allocation. Okay. And information regarding dynamic allocation is the allocation is performed during the execution of the program. Okay. Hence the name dynamic. Okay. So this means that the memory is allocated to the program only when the program is requesting for the memory. Okay. So only when the program or process is requesting for the memory, then I'll be going for the allocation of memory space for the process. Hence, we call this as a dynamic memory allocation, right? And in this allocation, like the allocation of memory, like in this, really what happens is the memory is exactly the same size as that of the information or the data or the program. Hence, it is hence it has no wastage of memory, right? As we are allocating the memory of equal size as that of the data, right, or the program or the process. Hence, it will not lead to any wastage of memory space. So, but the main disadvantage here is as the allocation of memory is being performed while the program is executing, hence we have something called as overhead. Okay, so we have the overhead involved here. Why? Because the allocation is performed while the process or the program is under execution. Okay, so what are the points regarding dynamic allocation? Is the memory allocated will be the same as that of the requirement. Hence, this dynamic allocation leads to no wastage of memory space. So, but the allocation is involving some amount of overhead as the allocation is performed while the program is being executed. So you can understand the meaning of this static allocation as well as the dynamic allocation. Yeah. So second concept is the memory allocation model. Okay. Basically, we have here two types of memory allocation models. So one we call it as contiguous memory allocation. Second one is a non-contiguous memory allocation, right? So these names itself suggest the meaning and implication of this contiguous memory allocation as well as non-contiguous memory allocation. So the first concept is like, let me deal with this contiguous memory allocation. Okay. So as the name itself indicates, each process is allocated a single contiguous area or address space in the memory by the operating system. Okay. Hence the name contiguous is being used here. So the locations, like whatever we have, right? So this main memory, like say this inside the main memory. So for a single process, suppose if the process size is 10 KB, means say from 0 to 10K minus 1 amount of locations will be like reserved continuously or in a sequence for a single process P of size 10 KB. Okay. So the simple concept here is, so for each process, okay, so each process will be allocated single block of memory where we have continuous or a sequence of memory locations. Okay, so the memory space allocated for a single process will be continuous, right? As seen in the below figure. So this rectangular blocks is nothing but the main memory, and we have here so many locations. Okay, so starting from 0, right, up to 10 KB minus 1 location, all these locations, right, will be reserved for the single process 10 KB. Okay, yeah, example. So if the process is of size 10 KB arrives, right, in the system, okay, so then this whole 10 KB of process will be given, okay, single block of memory, right, which has got these locations in a sequence. Okay, and second example, like what I can quote, like so as to explain the contiguous memory allocation is, suppose if I have this as a the main like main memory block of size say 0 to 99 MB, or I can take KB, whatever it is. Okay, suppose if it is the whole memory space available, right? And if I have the arrival of say process P1, right? And this process P1 is of size 10 KB. Okay, so this whole process P1 will be allocated locations in a continuous manner, right? Or in a sequential manner. Hence the 0 address, right? And up to the 10th address will be reserved for the process P1 of size 10 KB. Okay, and if say second process arrives say P2, right, of size say 30 KB means, right, again from 10 to 40, okay, all these addresses, I mean all the address space from 10 to 40 or all the locations, right, having the address 10 to 30 will be reserved for a single process P2. Hence this P2 will be getting this whole memory block having a sequence of address space and sequence of memory locations. Okay, so what is the bottom line here is, so for the individual process, okay, and in case of continuous memory location, the locations will be in the continuous in nature. Okay, so for example, if say third process arrives and its size is say 20 KB, right, or MB, like whatever it is, means the address space will be continuous in nature. Hence the locations will be also continuous in nature, right? Hence for a single process P3, right, I need to assign the continuous memory location starting from 40 to 60. Okay, yeah, so now tell me the meaning of this continuous memory location. So for each and every single process, I need to allocate a single block of memory, and that too in the continuous nature, means the address space, right, or the locations will be continuous in nature. Hence the individual process will be getting continuous locations, okay, where I can store the particular process. And as well as no break is there in the address space. Okay, no break is there in the address space means what? All the addresses will be in a sequential nature. Okay, say from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 will be allocated for the process P1, right? Again from the address 10 to 40, all the addresses are assigned for only process P2. Okay, yeah, like I'll be done with this continuous memory allocation. As name itself indicates, the like individual process will be getting contiguous area or address space will be in continuous in nature, and I can reserve the whole sequential address space, like having sequential memory locations for single process. No break will be there in the address space. Okay, yeah. So now let me deal with this non-contiguous memory location. Okay, yeah. So suppose if I have a process of 10 KB, okay, so what I will do, like in case of this non-contiguous memory location is, so this single process of size 10 KB will be divided into how many parts? 2 parts, and each part will be stored at the different locations. Okay, so whatever I am saying here, okay, like again I'm showing the sentences in terms of some figures or diagrams for better understanding. Okay, so whatever I'm speaking, same thing I'm explaining with respect to the statements, right, in terms of some figures and diagrams for better understanding. So what is the concept of this non-continuous memory allocation is, the single process will be divided into subparts where each part is called as a component of a process. And simple example like what I've taken is, okay, suppose if I have a process of 10 KB means this 10 KB process will be divided into subcomponents. Okay, and here each part of the process will be stored in the different location, like as you can see here, like so what we saw, like in case of this first type of allocation model, so-called the continuous memory allocation. Like in that, what we saw was, so for a single process, I used to allocate so one whole memory block, like having continuous location, right? So, but in case of this non-continuous memory allocation, what we do is, like I'll be dividing a single process into so many parts, and each part of the process, so-called the component of a process, will be stored in different locations. Okay, hence the starting address of say first part of P1 will be different, and the starting address of second part of same process P1 will be different. Okay, So that we call it as non-contiguous memory allocation. Okay. So again, the same statement here. Like if you see, so this, advantages of the contiguous memory allocation is a process P of size 10 KB is stored in one memory location. Hence, for this, the advantage what I can gain is accessing of the process P is easy. Why? Because simply if I specify the starting address of any process, means I can access the whole of the process. Why? Because I can be having the instructions of the process will be stored in a continuous manner. Okay, hence here no need to search for a particular process inside the main memory. Okay, just by specifying the starting address of this particular process, I can access the whole memory. Okay, and that is the main advantage, like in case of the contiguous memory allocation. And note that like same point in case of non-contiguous memory allocation is accessing of process P, like in case of non-contiguous memory allocation, is difficult. So why it is difficult? Because like you need to search for the process. Why? Because like in case of non-contiguous memory allocation, right, a single process will be broken down into different components or different parts, and each part will be stored in the different location. Hence in case of non-contiguous memory allocation, we need to search for the process, as different parts of the process like will be stored in the different memory location. Hence it involves lot of search. Okay, search to be made. Okay, so as to access the process. So but same concept in case of contiguous memory allocation is the accessing of process is made much more easy, because simply by specifying the starting address of process, I can access the whole process. Okay, yeah. So again, to have a sort of wind up. Okay, so basically we have here two kinds of memory allocation models, right? So one we call it as contiguous memory allocation, and second type is non-contiguous memory allocation. As the name itself suggests, in case of the contiguous memory allocation, so for a single process, I will be allocating the whole memory block, like in terms of sequence. Okay, and in case of non-contiguous memory allocation, what we do basically is a single process of say 10 KB will be divided into so many subparts, and each part will be stored in the different locations, right, as seen here. Hence the searching is somewhat complex, okay, when compared to the so-called contiguous memory allocation. So next thing is issues in the contiguous memory allocation. So we have basically three issues in case of contiguous memory allocation. So one is the memory protection. Second one is static and dynamic relocation of a program so as to execute from the memory area allotted to it or allocated to it. And third one is the measures to avoid memory fragmentation. Okay, so the first issue involved in the contiguous memory allocation is memory protection. That simply means what? Preventing one program or one process from affecting the memory of the other programs. So the memory space allocated for one program, okay, should not be like interfering with the memory space allocated for the other programs. Okay, so the so-called interference should not be there in the address space allocated for one process or one program with the memory space allocated for the second program. Hence, we need to avoid or we need to protect the memory spaces allocated to one particular process. And second point is static and dynamic relocation of the program so as to execute from the memory area allocated to it. And third point is measures to avoid memory fragmentation. So for your syllabus, we need to only concentrate on the memory fragmentation. Okay, so the meaning of fragmentation along with the types of fragmentation will be discussed next. Okay, right. So what do you mean by this fragmentation? Basically means that unused memory space created while allocating the memory to a program. Okay, so while we are allocating the memory for a process or program, we do have the production of some unused areas. Okay, so we do encounter the like occurring of some unused memory areas while we are doing the memory allocation for a process. So that creation of unused memory space or some wastage of memory space while we are doing the allocation of memory for a particular program, that we call it as fragmentation. Okay. And we have basically here like two kinds of fragmentation will be coming into picture. So one we call it as internal fragmentation and second one is external fragmentation. Again, I repeat, the meaning of fragmentation or memory fragmentation is it is the unused memory space created while we are allocating the memory for a program. Okay, so while allocating memory for a program or a process by the operating system, okay, some of the memory space will not be utilized. Okay, some of the memory space will be left unused. Okay, so this unused memory space or wasted memory space will be called as the fragmentation. Okay, so the unused memory space is also called as hole. Okay, remember it. The other word for unused or wasted memory space, okay, in the memory is called as a hole. Okay, right. So basically we have here internal fragmentation as well as external fragmentation. So next let me see this second concept is the internal fragmentation. Okay, so this says that this internal fragmentation exists when the memory allocated to a process is not completely utilized, fully utilized by the process. Okay, so a simple example has been given here. So where for a process P, we have allocated 100 KB, means the OS is able to allocate 100 kilobytes of memory for a single process P. So, but the single process P is able to use only 60 KB of memory, right, out of 100 KB. So then how much of memory space has been wasted here? Out of 100 KB, only 60 KB is used by process P, right? This means that how many memory space has been wasted? Hello?
40 KB.
40 KB is unused. Okay, so this 40 KB of unused memory is called as a hole, and this we call it as a internal fragmentation. So now tell me the main reason for occurrence of internal fragmentation. Internal fragmentation occurs, why? Because the process will not be able to use the complete or the full memory that has been allocated for it by the operating system. Okay, so this internal fragmentation arises or occurs, right, if the kernel or operating system allocates a memory area of standard size to a process irrespective of its request. Okay, so whatever may be the request of a process, so whatever may be the memory space requested by a process, right, irrespective of the requested memory space by a process, right, our kernel or OS will be able to allocate standard size, fixed size memory space for each and every process. Okay, and if I do have that situation, means same like, so maybe the single process P is not able to use whole of the 100 KB, right? Okay, and hence say out of 100 KB of memory space allocated to process P, right, only 60 KB is made use of by the process P, and remaining 40 KB is not utilized. Okay, hence we have the occurrence of internal fragmentation. Okay, so the memory block of 100 KB is allocated to a process P, and the process P is in need of only 60 KB. Okay, and the remaining 40 KB is remaining unused or it is wasted. Okay, so like this will lead to something called as internal fragmentation. And next is external fragmentation. So the main reason why external fragmentation arises is when the available memory space or area are too small to be allocated to the programs. In that situations, we will encounter this external fragmentation. So now tell me the main reason for external fragmentation. Suppose if the memory blocks or area are very much smaller, so that this space can be allocated for a process. Like in that case, we have the occurrence of external fragmentation. And a simple example like has been shown here. where this whole memory space has been divided into equal size, right? And their sizes is 100 KB. Okay. So for a process P1, right? So for a process P1,